Good morning. Welcome to Morning Moments. I am so pleased that you decided to come join us this morning. I have a special guest, another one from Virginia Beach. And I love that I interview people from all over, but I also love to interview people right in Virginia Beach and also from the house I worship in, too. That's great. And as I heard one of our guests said, there's beauty in the house. Absolutely. There's beauty in the house of God.
Come
And
on.
we get to interview today um, um, Parker Mathias, who is our one of our pastors at our church, and I just asked him to come join us. Welcome, Parker.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
So I've asked you to tell us what do you do and why do you do it. You've got a few different ministries in the church too. You kind of got a plate full, don't you?
I do. They just keep trusting me with more stuff. I don't know. It blows my mind every time.
Children, youth, small group. We serve under you in small group ministry, and
Yeah,
so yeah, you've expanded your horizons there, haven't you?
I did. Yeah, when I first came on the church, I was an assistant, and now, I'm a pastor. And so it's crazy just to see I guess the faithfulness of God and like how you can do far more than
Yeah,
what you could ever imagine,
yeah,
especially at my age. So
yeah. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to Christ, and why do you do what you do?
yeah, so it's funny. So when we were talking before this, I was just thinking, dang, it's kind of the older I get, the more complex I feel like my testimony has gotten. Where I got saved when I was 16, and at that time I would have just told you, yeah, a girl invited me to church, I said yes, and then I met Jesus. But now it's the older I get, I'm like, wow, there was so much going on in my life that had led to that moment, and I absolutely adore my parents, but I think they just, when I was a toddler, had kind of gotten a little burnout from trying to find a church home, and we just kind of stopped going to church, and we would go on Easter Sunday at the butt crack of dawn, and would go to watch a sunrise service, and then we would go out to an all-you-can-eat buffet afterwards. So that was nice, and I was kind of going through life. I would have called myself a Christian, but definitely wasn't following, the Lord in any way. And I had just gotten out of a not like an unhealthy relationship in high school, and I'd kind of moved on to a different girl, and was interested in her. And little did I know she was a believer and actively attending this church, Vineyard Church, and she just kept inviting me. And so finally I said, well, hey, if I want to date this girl, I've got to go to church. And so she invited me to a youth night. I was 16, and I remember sneaking in right before it was about to start, and just absolutely being blown away by what people were doing and how they were engaging in their faith and worship, and just engaging in the message. And that night I kind of prayed that prayer in my heart that I wanted to receive Jesus. And I remember the next day texting her if I could come back, if I was allowed to come back the next week. And just the rest is history from there. To be honest, we didn't end up dating, which I think was a God thing. But I found community and life in Jesus and through that. But I would later learn that my grandpa, when he would take me to church as a toddler, church would end and I would just stand in the sanctuary and just stare at the stained glasses. And, I never wanted to go to kids ministry. I always wanted to sit in the big kids church. And yeah, so that's an oversimplified version of my story. But
Yeah, what I found that, and I've been saved like 58 years, and what I have found that you could talk about the moment you got saved, the moment but there are so many journeys along the way before
mhm,
and after your conversion that the story continues. God's not done writing our story yet,
yeah, amen.
and he holds the pen, so let him write it. And
So true.
it's just amazing to hear people's story from the beginning and the ride they're at today. So you went into ministry. So why do you do that? What's the deal with that?
It's a great question. So I would say I'm a type A personality. So I love a plan, love a good plan, whether it's dinner plans or vacation plans. And so I had a plan for my life before I got saved. I knew what college I was going to go to, what I was going to major in, what career I was going to pursue. I really was fascinated by psychology and fascinated by criminology and just why people make the decisions that they do. And so I wanted to be a criminal psychologist. And so that didn't change right away when I got saved. But the closer it got to going to college, there was this yearning in my heart to do something different. But I was stubborn and said, well, all right, God, I hear you, but I've got a plan for myself. And so I went to my first year of college and moved away. And just in my dorm room, the Lord just so clearly gave me a vision that I had kind of I saw this like messy room, just like paint on the walls and just, dirt stains and just the different stories and decisions of my life. And then God showed me a room with just white walls. And he said, hey, I have cleared the room of your life, and now we're going to paint something new. And I will never, it was like the first time I ever got some type of vision from the Lord, and it just blew me away. And I knew I had to be obedient. And so I finished out that semester and moved back home and just started being at church as much as I could. But the motivation, one, was obedience for sure, but two, I was just so passionate about creating a space for people to meet Jesus in the same way that somebody else created a space for me. And I thought that was just so important, to do in this world, because I'm just incredibly thankful for my youth pastor and the people that loved on me when I was a stubborn 16-year-old,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's amazing how people come to Christ, and even in church, how it's important to have that welcoming, hey, welcome here, this is a good place for you, we're glad you came. They don't always feel that way at every church. And
That's true.
so it's nice to have that atmosphere of you come as you are, God will accept
Yeah.
you just as you are.
Yeah, just especially being inclusive, because I have been to churches where it feels like there's an in crowd, and unless you're in that in crowd, you'll just kind of always be on the outskirts. But I never want to create a space for that. Even in the home that I live, I want it to be open to people, and so that all can come to his table and take part.
Yeah. There's such diversity in children, youth, and small group ministry too.
Oh yeah.
And it's great to be able, and you mentioned being younger. It's so great to be able to work in different aspects of ministry at a young age, and to be able to sample what it's like, the difference in children and youth and small group. And you're dealing with children, and then you're dealing with adults like me. So it's quite a difference, isn't it?
It is, and it's not.
Yeah.
I started in youth ministry, and then kids, and now small groups, and I've kind of learned that adults are like kids too. Just their problems are the same, just the consequences are different. So
Yes, yes, absolutely.
same with youth too. It's
Yeah.
just instead of worrying about what sports team you're on, you're like worrying about what promotion you'll get, or what girl likes you. It's like, well, I want a healthy marriage. So the skill sets are different, obviously, but it's been really cool to, I guess, be able to minister to people at various ages in their lives. And I'm still learning, but yeah, it's such a blessing.
This has been some very challenging times for us as individuals, as society, and as for the church. What lessons have you learned during these changing times?
Gosh, I yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons that I've been learning is how to walk through heavy emotions as a believer, particularly grief. I've lost a lot of family members over the past couple of years, COVID related, non-COVID related, and it's just never really had to do that in my life. And I'm 28 now, almost 29, and so that's been hard, and it's how do you kind of wrestle with a biblical approach to grieving, right? Knowing that we'll see those people in eternity, while being kingdom focused today, but then also not. I grew up kind of just, I'm an internal processor. And so I often felt that my emotions were not productive for myself or for others. And so I just would avoid them. And so, I think the beauty of the past couple years now, that I've experienced is just the value of intimacy and how important that is. But not just important, how necessary it is with God, intimacy with God, and how He ministers to our brokenness, but then also how He's called us to be intimate with His people. And, just kind of being fed that Disney fairy tale where you'll find that one person and then all of your needs will be met. And, it's like, well, no, God's actually designed us to be in community so much more than just a spouse. And
Yeah.
so, making sure I have healthy intimacy with my friends and with my mentors and with God, so that's kind of just the value of that has skyrocketed, counseling, all of the things.
Yeah, it's real surprising. It's wonderful to hear that you started out with criminal psychology, and some days as pastor is pretty close to what you started, isn't it?
It can be, actually. Yeah, you're not wrong. I did finish that psych degree.
Good. Well, it has been a delight to get to have you on the show, to be able to interview you. I'm so glad I'm reaching out. I was sharing with Daniel, who I just interviewed a few days ago as well, that in at one of our prayer meetings, I was praying and I was looking around and I was praying about what God had for us. And I looked around at so many people in the room praying, and I'm thinking, I'm going all the way around to the other side of the world to get people to interview for Morning Moments. There's folks in this room right here that has their story and has something to
Yeah,
share, and we'll be reaching out for more people too, even within
come on.
within like Daniel says, beauty in the house. There is truly beauty in the wonderful to be around and others to journey with them with the
Yeah,
church family as well.
come
So
on. It's the power of the local church.
absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to put information down below. Parker is part of the Vineyard Church staff, but more important than coming in and seeing, coming to Vineyard to meet Parker and coming to visit us. More important than that, when you're seeing this interview, I want you to take the time and pray for Parker, that this young man, God would continue to ordain his steps and continue, and Parker will continue to follow the steps that God has for him. The challenging times ahead, because we got different chapters in our life, and let's
Yeah.
just pray for him and keep him lifted up in prayer, if you would please. And also, thank you for joining us for Morning Moments. I'm so glad you came today, and keep coming back for some more Morning Moments. And God bless you.